Hi, also, I'm Tyler Broxterman, and I wanted to start my presentation on alcohol and drug abuse. Um, so that's what I chose for my local community issue project. So I want to start by having a little introduction, and I want to ask you guys the question of if you have ever had a lost one, lost a loved one or somebody that you know very well to a drug overdose or, somebody dying from alcohol complications or anything like that. And I just want you guys to kind of imagine, what that would be like if you were to lose somebody like that, somebody you love, it would be the worst feeling ever, wouldn't it? So that's kind of my main preface behind this topic and why I chose it. So that being said, the topic, yeah, we already got over that as drug and alcohol abuse. And then for my thesis, it is that, drug and alcohol abuse, it destroys lives and relationships. And, there's a lot more that I think that we could, do to try to limit it, to try to, make it less than it is now. So, yeah. Some of the major points that I'm going to cover are, how it happens, what we can do, and then the severity of the problem and, why it's increasing every year. That's definitely something that doesn't happen a lot with a lot of the other issues. So, so to start with the need, um, so the last time that data was collected on this was 2021, but in 2021, 98,268 individuals passed away as a result of drug abuse and overdoses. And that's just drugs. Likely, even more on top of that from alcohol abuse and not to even mention that those who didn't pass away or I'm sure there's still so many out there that struggle, very heavy. It has their life in full control, it has full control over their entire life. But yeah, those are just the ones that passed away. So, to kind of build on the need that, so many people are dying right in front of us, and it's because of something that I feel like it's just because it doesn't get enough attention, it doesn't get enough money, it doesn't get enough awareness. Um, so it could definitely be limited and there could definitely be improvement. Human lives are really precious and um, we're lucky to be here. So it's not okay that I think that many people are dying from it every year and that number is only going up. So to kind of build on the proposed solutions, there already are a couple things out there to try to help prevent um, you know, alcohol and drug abuse, but I feel like there's always more. So some of the things that they do have now are like rehab and alcohol treatment centers. I know that rehab is really big for people that struggle with drug abuse and drug problems. Um, if you don't know what rehab is, it's kind of just a center where they help you take your life back, um, and gain control, of what you're struggling with, whatever you're addicted to, whatever has taken over your life. Some of the other things are, local charities and organizations. I know there's a couple charities and organizations, especially here in Lexington, that, work solely on the problem of drug and alcohol abuse. That raise awareness for it, they fundraise and while I don't know exactly what they do with that money, I know that it goes to a good cause and that they use it to raise awareness for the problem. And then, just recently there was a, grant given to the government here in the city of Lexington to help limit drug and alcohol abuse and to, like I said before, raise awareness of the situation, I guess, try to tackle the problem head on. Excuse me. But yeah, I read an article while researching for this project that, the government just recently gave the city of Lexington $2 million to try to combat this problem. So I think that's a pretty big deal. So for visualization, working towards this issue, it can really help save lives. I feel like that's the main goal here. And then, those who haven't passed away or, are close to it, you can turn somebody's life around completely by, visualizing it. And these are some of the like positive outcomes if we were to, improve on this problem that so many of these people, I mean, they're people too. So many of these people could have their lives turned completely around and they could become a functioning member of society so quickly. They could, once you beat that addiction, once you beat that problem, it is so easy to get your life back on track, get a job and pull yourself together. So, it's important that these people do get the help that they need, and, you know, the people around them help them in every way that is possible. It's really sad whenever you see somebody that is, struggled with drug addiction or a drug problem. So this image here in the bottom left is a really good representation of what it looks like. It's a woman. It's a work of art actually, but on the right, it's what she looks like when she has a drug problem whenever she's battling. And then, on the left, she just looks like a normal person. So you can see that drastic difference when somebody is struggling. Obviously she would be very far along if they did look like that, but there's still a very apparent difference between the two. And then in the bottom right, we just have an example, kind of a dark image, but somebody who's struggling, and you get the alcohol there and the drugs. So yeah. Okay, and now to move on to action. So while you can't, that's supposed to say can't, by the way, sorry, that's a typo. Well, you can't directly go out and prevent addiction, like you can't go out onto the streets and solve it yourself with your hands. There's a ton of different things that you can do to help. Um, so things like donating, if you have extra money, donate it to a local business or a charity. They know exactly what to do with that money, and where to put it to make sure that it helps those people who need it. Some other things you can do are help and look out for those around you who may be struggling. It's really easy to see the early signs of addiction, and to kind of build on that, I have this image right here that it gives you a couple signs and symptoms of drug abuse and people, that are battling addiction. So especially if you're living with somebody, if it's your family member, you can definitely tell that they're acting different. Um, and then to finish up here, limiting access of drugs and alcohol, kind of just like not advertising it in a way. Drugs and alcohol are always going to be around, especially alcohol. People love it, but um, I feel like a lot of people that deal with addiction and abuse start early, and that's why it spirals downhill so quick. If you start drinking underage, if you start doing drugs earlier, if they're legal drugs, doing them way earlier than you're supposed to, then that never really ends well. It always causes the problems later down the road. So kind of just not advertising it to people, and then there's certain people that are always going to be prone to addiction more than others. So um yeah, those are some of the things that you can do to kind of just help with the problem. I think that, donating money is probably the biggest one here. You have any extra money and you're putting it to that cause, these charities, like I said, I think I've said it two or three times already, but they know exactly what to do with the money. They know exactly where to get it to go so that, it's helping those people out there that are struggling. So I'm gonna go ahead and play my podcast on the issue. I think it is 2 or 3 minutes, a little over 3 minutes. So I'm gonna go ahead and play that now. Hi, I'm Tyler Broxterman, and I want to welcome you to Tyler's podcast. Um, I'm here with the communication school, and I'm going to talk about drug and alcohol abuse and misuse today, and why it is such a big issue. Um, so I mean, drug and alcohol abuse is definitely an issue that affects the society, obviously the individual as well. But I feel like it brushes over a lot of people's heads, and um, if you're not struggling with yourself, you don't think about it too much. But there are a lot of people out there who are. So some of the statistics that I think are, really outstanding to me, is how much drug and alcohol, how many overdoses have increased since the year 1999. Um, Up to 781% increase since the year 1999, which I think is just insane with how many people have been dying more and more every year, and that number only increases every year with how many people are starting to use drugs and misuse them. as well as alcohol. A lot of people die from alcohol every year, and nobody pays any attention to that. One other statistic that I thought was really outstanding was the number of male alcohol and drug misuse, and how many overdose deaths are from men instead of women. I think it's about every 7 of the 10 overdose deaths are from a man. So obviously, men misuse drugs and abuse drugs and alcohol a little bit more often than women do. Um, but yeah, I feel, maybe a lot of people think that it's a 50-50 split problem, but it definitely isn't. Um, yeah. Another thing that that happened kind of recently is that the city of Lexington got a 2 million dollar grant from the government to combat illegal drugs, try to fight towards lowering these numbers that keep going up every year. Even like raise awareness for people that are struggling with drug addiction, drug misuse, because it is a really big problem, and not a lot of people, you know, I don't want to say not care about it too much, but not a lot of people are super interested or like working towards trying to limit it. So, I think that's something that could definitely be improved. And yeah. So, that's all I wanted to talk about on the podcast today. It's just kind of raising awareness for drug and alcohol misuse and, talking a little bit about the topic, how many people actually deal with it. And it's something that we need to work toward and kind of start to improve upon, at least in my opinion. So I want to thank you for listening, and I will catch you next time on Tyler's podcast. All right. So I hope you enjoyed that. Kind of just expanding on the topics we were already talking about, but gives you a little bit of a different perspective. Um, so yeah. And lastly here, I'm going to wrap it up with the conclusion, kind of just go over the points that we talked about and summarize. So drug and alcohol abuse, obviously, very important issue. People are dying, lives are being lost. Obviously, something needs to do about it because it just keeps getting worse and worse every single year. So in the next point, many people die every year from this issue, and it's only getting worse, like I said. So obviously, the goal, if an issue is this big, that we want the numbers to go down and not up every year. So I think that's a good goal to set. And then, by introducing this topic, went over its need, we visualized it, then we formulated, a little bit of a plan and some action that we can take to try to prevent it, try to bring the numbers down. So, I think that gave us a much better perspective on the issue, gave us a different way to look at it. And yeah, I hope that obviously that we can, work together, try to bring this problem down. And I'm glad I chose this topic and that it's some, that awareness needs to be raised about it. And yeah, that's it. Thank you guys so much for your time, and yeah.